way, I'm not sure. The classes from last time. Did you save them somewhere? Is there a place we can
Yeah,
get them?
that should be in lessons. So if you go to GitHub.
Okay. So okay, that's where I downloaded it.
And here we have lessons, and we have examples.
Oh, but I meant the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation.
Yep. So we have them here.
Perfect.
On the
Cool.
main
All right.
README. On the top level.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
So sorry. So I can find the slide on the page, but where are the videos? Lesson. Okay, I have refreshed the page now.
So videos on our YouTube channel. You need to go to YouTube. I'll send you a link to our channel.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. So today we will talk about media queries, about floating, which we basically don't use now, but you need to know about that because you might notice in some old platforms. About positioning, about normalizers, and semantic text and CSS Flexbox, which is a big thing. So, just a few quick questions from the previous lesson to make sure that you still remember what we've discussed. And let me just open my questions. Who knows how to select all P elements with direct div parent? Anyone? So imagine.
Actually, I don't even understand the question, to be honest.
So how to select all P elements with direct div parent. So you have, let's say in HTML, imagine that you have div and you have p tag, right?
Yeah.
And you have a few more p tags. So how to select the p tags that with direct parent? So this is parent, this is child. This is how we call them.
Yeah. Okay.
Parent, child. And how to select all p tags within the div. In CSS.
I can't remember.
Any thoughts? So because this one is a parent, so we have the starting with the parent. Then because we are looking for direct children, we use this symbol and we are selecting p tags. This is it. So we will select all p tags that are inside, that they have, where they have div as a parent, right?
Okay.
Huh?
We saw so many things last week that on Monday that I don't even remember that. So
yeah, I believe. Yeah, HTML CSS is a bit intense. You need to play with them to learn. Okay. Yeah, probably we'll skip these few because they are just like straight after like plus symbols. How to select element with two yeah, let's do the third one. How to select the element with two classes. One is list, second is list main. So imagine that they have an element list main. So I have that kind of element. How to select this element with two classes? The class concatenation that we talked about. So how to select by class?
We'll do again the div and then that fine. No.
So that means that I will look inside my div.
Okay, so that doesn't work now.
Yeah, but how to select by class? I bet that none of you played this game that I gave you on Monday.
No, not yet. I haven't had the chance to review the class either.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so if you want to select by class, you just do dot and the class name. And because we're looking for the element that have two classes, we do dot without any spacing and list main. This is your selector. Okay. How to select the list item element that is inside a list? So imagine that you have UL list NLI list item. Right? So you have that kind of structure. And you want to select this one. So again, you're starting from the parent, you have list.
Yeah.
Well, so you have your dot list. And then, because you have space, you target the child. This is how you're targeting the child.
Okay, the difference is only adding a space then. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Okay. Anyone remember pseudo classes? Come on.
I can cheat and go back and see, but I won't. And yeah, no, to be honest,
Yeah, so
blur in my.
pseudo classes are representing state. So like hover, active, focus. Remember that? No? So when you hover on something, you interact with the element focus, active, what do we have? Selected, etc. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I will not ask you the following questions, but the next time I will ask similar questions about today's lesson.
Okay, now we know we're one. We need to be ready for it.
Yep. Okay. Let's move
Did you say that the video was uploaded to the YouTube channel? Because I was looking at it and I wasn't sure that I found it. Did you put any particular name?
So let me share this.
Because I was hoping that I could review that class and I couldn't find it. At least like 3 days ago, still didn't see it in there.
Yeah, so we have, this is your playlist. I'm just sending it to you in Slack. And there you will find all our lessons. So I will upload every time after the lesson, I'll upload the video there.
Oh, yeah, great.
Feel free to subscribe, like. Yep. Okay, so let's talk about media queries. So media queries basically gives you ability to make your website responsive and create some specific stylings for different screen sizes. So that means that you can, when you create your stylings, like we're doing here, write in some, I don't know, font color or font size, or font size, come on, font size, 20 pixels. With media queries, I can create specific rule and apply different font size for the smaller screen or for the bigger screen. So that is why we have media queries. And we have a few types of conditions for media queries. You can write media query based on the width or height. Media type, like is it a screen, is it a print, like a printer. Orientation, so landscape or or tablet or portrait, or portrait, and resolution, which rarely used. You can also combine them. So let's say you can create a media query for width 1000 pixels and orientation portrait or landscape. And here, these media query types, so all, print, screen, and speech. If you do not define any type, that will automatically take all. And here's the syntax. So what do you need to do is you put at media, then screen, the type, and your condition, which, for example, min width 400 pixels, right? And I can apply specific stylings for this. And let me show you an example. So inspect. So here I prepared, as usual, some examples for you. So it's just pure the CSS. It's not about Java. It's not about HTML. So let me show it to you here. So I have some stylings for the image, right? This is just a regular stylings for the image, and font size, which is description for the image, this one. And here I'm writing my at media, and because I'm not specifying anything in the device type, that will take all. And here I commented that this is the same. And I'm saying that if the screen minimum has 764 pixels width, then I want to have some other stylings. And let me just uncomment. So if the screen is bigger than this, I want to change height to 300 pixels, not 200, and thick caption font size 1.4, not 1. So now if I start resizing my screen, I will apply these stylings or these stylings. So let's try. Refresh.
So at media is actually just asking the machine like what pixel or what screen your user has.
So it's kind of like if in JavaScript,
yeah.
Right? It's kind of. So this is basically your if, then your condition, and then do something.
Okay.
It's kind of like that. Because this is just
in that same example, line 64 where you are at, add media, the if is basically validating if the width it's less than 674.
No, at least. So min width at least.
At least.
Yeah.
Okay, min width at least 674.
Yep.
Then when you said based on min width, what is that, a class? A CSS class?
No, this is the condition, min width.
Yeah.
It's not a class, it's nothing, it's just like a syntax of media query.
Okay, now I'm referring to line 65. Based on min width, because it's starting with a dot, so it looks to me like a class. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, this one, yes. Based on min width, sorry. Yeah, probably not the best naming. But yeah, based on min width is a class. So
you define somewhere else in your CSS file a class called based on min width.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
and then you're applying to an image, to the image tag, the height of 300 px.
Yeah, so here in my HTML, I have based on min width.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It can be anything, right?
Yeah, of
and
course.
by default, I'm styling my image with height 200 pixels, right here. But if I get to the point that my screen is bigger than 764, I want to redefine it. Basically, I will overwrite this.
Okay, so you just put the media in an alternative one. So you have one without the media because that's going to be the default, unless a certain criteria is met, and that is what the media is checking for.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right. So that the basic syntax for media is this, right? Just a wrapper. And inside that wrapper, you can write your regular selectors as you're doing that anywhere else, like here.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions?
I thought you can play with minimum width, you can play with number of pixels, you can play on landscape versus normal. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now here, you can see that my screen, my image now has 300 pixels, right? And this one has 19.6 pixels font. But if I start resizing, and you can see on my top right corner, you have 1200s, 900s, 8, and look at this. When I get to 6.763, it just becomes smaller, right? So this is the breakpoint for these stylings. Yep. The next condition is, give me a second, let me just comment it out. So you can actually, you can have a few conditions. Like you can have for 764, and you can create another block for 1024. So you can basically override your stylings a few times. Right, so you're basically, this one will be up to 763. Then you will apply these stylings, and starting from 1024, you will apply these stylings. Right, so you overwriting the same things. So let me refresh again, and so we have small one, then medium, and then big, right? So now it is responsive. So we have like three sizes. So this is min widths. Basically, you can do min widths. We also have max widths. This is the same, syntax is the same, you just have max widths. And that means that you want to apply stylings inside unless you met this criteria. So it maximum 1024. So if I uncomment, I will have, this is for the second image. It is small because we have 200 pixels, right? But if I start decreasing the widths, give me a second. So what do we change? We have height, so maximum, yeah, right. So the max is 300 pixels, and I haven't refreshed the page. Yeah, this one. So now it's 300 pixels. If I start increasing and get to 1024, it becomes bigger, right? So what is the difference between min and max? So why you might use min widths or max widths? So when you start writing your default stylings, you need to understand what kind of platform you are building. Is it a mobile first or desktop first? If you're creating like a mobile first application, so your main platform and your main traffic will come from the mobile, your default stylings needs to be for mobile. So you don't want to write media queries for mobile. And that is why you start writing min widths. If somebody will open on this desktop, then they will get inside your media queries and get different stylings. So min width if you do mobile first. And the vice versa with max widths. If your platform is for the desktop mainly, so your default styling should be for just for like desktop. And then if somebody shrink the screen or open your website on the mobile, then you will have your max width that will overwrite it.
Okay, are you saying that the same coding that we're doing just now from the CSS perspective is the one that is applied for mobile first? It's just that by default it will go to the smallest screen, and then the media queries, what they will do is that they will actually validate if the size is bigger. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So this is min widths. And max widths is in opposite direction. Yeah, so again, it's just like a different approaches. It's not something that I need to follow. You just, if you write your code in different approach, and you will build you will write like the application is for mobile, and you will write every single query, every single stylings inside media queries and use max widths. That's also fine, but you will write more code, and which is necessary, right? Not necessary. You don't need to have extra code. That is why it's like two approaches. Yeah, so we can have the same on min height, and to be honest, I haven't seen that on production, but I bet that some companies probably they adjusting like for tablet and for the portrait mode and for landscape mode, so they might care about this. But normally it's enough to have your min weights and max weights, but still sometimes you have like min height and max height, still the same thing. It's nothing different. We also have print. So print is very specific, again, for publishers, and this is when you want to make your page printable, let's say. I'm always showing the example of the Guardian, because they are a publisher, and they actually do a good job with CSS, because if you land on this page, right, and this is an article, if I even unblock all spam, come on, where's my ads? Wait a second. Yeah, it's loading. Come on, faster, please. Oh my gosh. What's going on? Give me a second. Let me try to... Yeah, right. My RAM is running out. 1 second. Come on. I'm just clear.
Information today.
Sorry?
No, it's just reading the advertisement.
Wait a second. I'm just cleaning up my RAM. So I have 9 megabytes of free RAM.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you farming some bitcoins or?
Not really, but it looks like, okay, so now I have 7 gigs. Beautiful. Thank you. So we have this, a lot of ads, right? But I want to print this article. I want to have this article, and if I'm do poor job with CSS and try to print this article, I will have everything around, like everything, every single element. But the Guardian, if you they do a good job, and if you put press Command P just to print it, you will see that you have nicely formatted article. Ooh, wait a second. Not really. They changed something. Somebody broke they broke my perfect example.
Let's quote them.
Right. Really, because I always showing the Guardian, because publishers normally care about their. Let me go maybe to another article. I don't know. It should be. So what they do with a media query print, they are removing everything and leaving just text for the article. And you have nicely come on, they definitely broke something. We need to notify Guardian.
Maybe the FT works.
Let me check Wall Street Journal, what the Telegraph? Maybe they have.
You can try the FT actually. It works.
Okay, FT.
FT.com.
FT.com. So let's go to the first article. Beautiful.
Shit.
Yeah. Do they have some free articles?
There should be a section where it's free. Actually, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Market Tech.
Let's try Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. Really, they ruined my lesson. Okay. Yeah. Still, they should have some free articles. And this is crazy.
Wall Street Journal didn't work. So.
Sorry?
I tried Wall Street Journal, but I had the same issue as you on Guardian.
Mm-hmm. Telegraph. Let me try with Telegraph. Maybe they have. Okay, so I have some article here. So beautiful. And I can't scroll now.
I have an article here, but it's, sorry guys, it's in French. I think it works with this one.
Give me a second. It doesn't matter. So, they here see that I can't scroll because of their stylings. They applying like blocking the website, but you can go to inspect and just position fixed, bottom, overflow X. Now I can scroll at least, but they also hide the app. That will be for them. Yeah, so if you click Command P, right. Sorry.
I need to accept the cookies.
Yeah. You have nicely formatted, right? You don't have any others like banners or whatever, but you have normally on the website. That is why they have like media print, and they basically doing display none to all these sections and keep just an article. So for them, it's important to write such media queries. Yeah. But if you go back, you have everything as usual, which is nice. Yeah, so here we have like min width, max width, orientation. Here I already explained to you that this is like mobile first, desktop first. And I think, so here I have a few examples about orientation, so portrait, landscape, that for desktops, and resolutions, so DPI, which again, I've never seen in production, but this is like for high resolution display. You might want to render some high resolution images or like change the size, etc. But yeah, again, I've never seen that before. It's a very specific thing. Okay, any questions on media queries? No?
No, do you have like an example, or is it? I mean, I guess yeah, you showed it a bit, but like, how does it? Would it look like? Would you then just, I guess, select only the article for the media query then?
So it's not, you're not selecting only article. You're selecting everything besides article, and setting display none.
Okay, got it.
So you're basically hiding everything, leaving just article.
Vasser, maybe too easy question. On your VS Code, you have the HTML code on the right side and the page on the left side.
Yep.
First of all, how you do this split of screen with the two, and secondly, when you were dragging up and down the image, would this automatically change the code you were writing? So when you were, increasing the size, then the image of the cat suddenly, goes bigger. Would your code still be written the same way, or something has been amended from the fact that you've been changing manually?
Yeah, so the code is still the same. So you're just providing all your code with your basically if statements, right? With your media queries. And the browser will read your instructions, and if it matches some media query, then it will apply this bit, the bit inside. But you providing everything, code doesn't change.
Okay.
And for tabs, it just, when you have one window, you double click, let's say on index CSS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and usually if you that's I know, but
right click
to get the browser, I don't know.
So you, so you click right click on the tab here on the tab,
mm-hmm.
and split right, and you have it.
Yeah, that's I know how to have like two coding pages, but it seems you have one coding page and one page with the browser.
Oh no. Oh, this one.
Yeah.
This is developer tool. So right click on the any page in your browser and inspect.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have your code here. Okay. So let me just try to close some stuff because it is annoying. Everything is so laggy.
Another actually stupid question on that. So does it mean that all websites you can actually get the HTML and CSS codes?
Yeah.
By that?
Yeah.
Inspector?
We can actually go to I don't know, The Guardian, right, and redesign it. So let's say to go to any article. Go, for example, to the title, and we can edit it.
What is this developer tool? Is it something you have to pay for?
No, it just right click, and this is it. Says coders in whose is the best whoever. Right?
No way. Wow. Love that.
Yeah, and you can change colors. So for example, we have we definitely have somewhere. Let me find the this one. Let's make it pink. And you can play with all these elements. You can remove some elements. You can add an element. You can click on the element and, for example, remove the section. Yeah, magic.
It is.
But when you refresh, you will lose everything. So it helps you to debug and develop your websites. But it's not persisting. It's just for you. It's just in your browser.
Got it.
That is also helpful when you have a client and he's like, what if I make the header red instead of blue, for example, and they want to have different views of the thing, you just change it on CSS and get some sort of a screenshot so that they can, like see the options and make a decision based on that. So before you actually apply it to the site.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, sometimes when you talk with the designers, you actually doing, like, you can add some stylings here, like, I don't know, write something, background color. You can write your CSS here and just quickly write a few lines and show, okay, that might look like this. And they say, okay, that's fine. And then you just copy it from here and paste it in your VS Code, or you just write in there, but you already know what do they want. So on any page, you can go to any page, inspect it, and do whatever you want with this page. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. This is how how close you are to modify everything around. Great. Yeah, so the next thing is float. Float is the old way to position elements. So now we have like a nice Flexbox, we have CSS grid, but float is something that people did a while ago when they used to work with jQuery and the old tech. So what it does, basically with float, you can move your elements. And let me just write, see, because I defined some stylings for that, but I want to show you here. Yeah. So see that in my DevTools, I have these two properties because I have them in my code. Let me show you. But these two lines are commented out. So the first one is not commented out. Next two are commented out. And here I can see my first line and two crossed. So they are not applicable now. But I can tick and apply, right? So what is float? Float basically takes your element and moves to the left or moves to the right. But the problem with float, that if I float right, you can see that my text goes up and I lost the parent height. So the parent height now is 0. This is a problem, and now you try to fix and put this element on some position, which is annoying, and some people doing just adding break, or so basically you have a few ways to do that. I'll show you it here. So you have for float left, right, none, and inherit, and you'll get the issue with your float. This is just a code for, here we have an example that we have a div, which is yellow, then we have p, which is white, this one, hello, and the background green. So if I do float for my p tag, see that it collapses my div, And the solution...
float to what? Sorry, it went a bit fast.
Yeah, to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter. If you use float, it will lose the height of the parent.
Oh, okay, got it.
So the solution, we have a few actually. We can use clear CSS property, like from both sides, and that will fix our problem. Or, which is much nicer, we can use overflow auto for the parent. So here, if you go, we have broken layout, but now if I click on the parent and set overflow auto, I got my height back. So I fixed the position. But again, this is like a just in educational purposes, because you shouldn't use float, because we have much nicer ways to do it and position your elements. So don't use float in real life. Yes. Okay. So positioning. Positioning is actually very tricky part. We have a few things. We have static position, we have relative position, fixed, absolute, and sticky. So you can apply this positioning for each HTML element. And let's actually talk about each. So static is the default positioning. So every single element by default has position static. So it does basically nothing with the element. Yeah. So no like nothing specific. It just as a regular behavior. We have relative. So relative position means that you're positioning relatively to the default position. What I mean here is, if you go to positioning, click this one, give me a sec. For this one, if I set for my P, if I set position relative and then left 20 pixels, see I'm moving it, or like 50 pixels. It's moving based on the current on the default, from the default position to some direction, and like top 100 pixels, right? But default position is there on the very beginning of the parent, top left corner, because this is the parent bottom. So this one is relative position. The next one is actually absolute position.
Sorry, so when you actually do your coding, your positioning, I'm just thinking about exercise 12. Are we supposed to do it like this on the side and have like a look and feel directly as to how it actually impacts?
No. So we will talk about Flexbox today, and you will see how you can easily position all your elements around with Flexbox. Okay. So yeah, imagine that. So now we know that relative is based on the default position, but you can also have absolute position, and this one will be based on the closest non-static parent. So again, closest non-static parent, and by default the position for other elements are,
well, with the class bottom still?
No, I mean so we have position static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky, and by default each element have position static, and this one absolute will look for the closest non-static element. So that means that if I set absolute, hit enter, and I will say that I want to have top 50 pixels, sorry, left 50 pixels in this case, it will check for this one, is it static or non-static? It's static because I haven't changed any position for this one. So it goes to the next one. Is this one non-static? No, because it's static, I haven't changed it. It goes to this one, again static, goes to that one, static, then to body, static, and then to HTML. It's still static, so but this is the top one, so it will be positioned based on this one. And if I take top 100 pixels, or let's say 20 pixels, it is behind my navigation. I can actually show it to you, right? It's there. It's just behind. Third dimension.
So I guess you wouldn't use absolute in practice, right?
I will, because
yeah.
how you can fix it, for example, for your top, without changing any behavior, you can just set position relative, right? And now it's positioned, this one is the closest non-static.
Okay.
Or maybe I want to add to my middle, also position relative. And now it's positioned based on this one, because this is the closest one. Or my bottom one, position relative. And now we position it based on this one. And it's very easy now with my text. Imagine that, because this is like doesn't make sense just to move a few pixels. But if I want to put this text in the middle, right? You can do top 50%. Oh, sorry, left 50%, top 50%, and it's starting on from the very center of the green box, right? To fix it, we will talk about that separately, but we have transition, translate, and you want to have minus 50% and minus 50%. Transform, oh sorry, not transition, transform. Come on. Transform. Why is complaining? Oh no, it's not. So now my text starting there. Like it is centered now. I'm still wondering why it's wrapping. I can add another, like a string. What is a wrap? Wrap. White space. No wrap. Right? And it is positioned in the middle. But again, this you want to use this specific scene is like position this 50-50 with images, and I'll show you how easy you can position your images within the container a bit later. But here with Flexbox it's much easier to position your element within the container. I'll show it to you today. But this is positioning. So the next positioning that we have is fixed. That means that if I set position, let's say left, I don't know, 20 pixels, and top, not top, let's say bottom, 10 pixels, it will be always there. So even if my container has height, I don't know, 6,000, if I'm scrolling, but this element will stay always there, right? So this is position fixed. It's based on the window. And what we have on our website, let's say, we have position fixed for our social medias here. So when you scroll, it's always there, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
You also might notice that some websites, they have like a phone and like a button that you can call, and they stop on the same position. So this is position fixed. The next position is, let me just refresh. is position sticky. What it means that it will have position relative till this certain point. So if I have position sticky and like top 100 pixels, so when I start scrolling, let me change the height of this element. 6,000. So if I start scrolling, it's scrolling with everything, right? It's just regular text. But when you hit the 100 pixels from the top, it will stay on the same position, right? And if I scroll down, scroll up, sorry, back, it will get to the 100 pixels and start scrolling with everything, right? So on some point it's stopping. So it jump in between, like dynamically, it will jump between relative position and position fixed automatically. It's relatively new property, which is and actually we can check, can I use, right? Sticky. Position sticky. You can see that Internet Explorer doesn't support it at all. Edge.
That's a restaurant menu or something, huh?
Yeah, so it's very helpful for top menus, for navigations, etc. Yep. And Edge partially supported. Chrome not always supported. So support the TH. Oh, right. So they have some limitations with tables, but in general, it is supporting. And Firefox and Safari is supporting. So it's kind of relatively new property for CSS, but it's very handy. So these are positioning. So we have examples. Fixed might be used for footer or navigation, the top one. Absolute here, if you will read about that. So closest non-static parent. Sticky, I just showed it to you. The next thing is normalizers. So in different browsers, when you load your page, in different browsers, we have different default stylings, like font sizes, the margin around the body, and a few different stylings, let's say. And when you build your website, everything looks nice. You position every single element perfectly, and because you develop it in Chrome, and then suddenly somebody open your website in Edge or in Safari, and they got slightly different positioning. They have slightly some margins, some different font sizes, etc. And this is because they are applying this default, their default stylings. And that means that you want to fix it. You want to have default styling should be same across all browsers. And we have, basically it's not some tricky way of doing to fix it or something. It's just somebody, some good guys wrote a long CSS file that will set all default stylings. And basically, because you will add this code to your project, you'll have default stylings in different browsers same. So every single project that you're starting to build, you need to add this normalizer, because you will have just normal stylings for all browsers, the default stylings. You'll reset them, let's say. And how to do it, I'm doing that here. You're adding this normalize file before your CSS. You need to do that before your CSS, because if you do it after, their stylings might overwrite yours, and that might be a problem. That is why you put in their default, like reset to default or like to generic one, and then you put in your stylings. So order matters because CSS is cascading, right? Does it make sense? Yep.
Yeah. We should probably note that down. Oh, that's actually in the lesson, yeah.
Yeah, so it is in the lesson. Yeah, here. So you need to use it every single time you're creating a project. Just add it so you will have less problems with synchronizing styling across all browsers. Okay, if you're bored at home, we have a nice game to find the. Basically, you can check yourself how accurate you are with design, let's say. This is the game about to recognize which design is wrong. So basically you just need to click. So you selecting the correct one. Yeah. So compare. When you hold, you can see the difference. And next. Again, you selecting.
Right on, yeah.
Yep. Here.
The left one?
No. See that it's too long. This button is too long.
Oh wow, yeah, there's small difference, yeah.
Here.
The left one?
Yes. Because capitals. You can see the capitals. And yeah, so that was promo. Now you need to go through the whole. And they have, I don't know, like 18 exercises. So you can play around. It is a fun one. So here should be left one because it's green. Yeah. Ooh, sorry. Oh yeah, right. We want to leave it. Okay, yeah. Spend some time, like 10 minutes. The next thing is semantic tags. Semantic tags are tags with a meaning. So it's not just divs and this is it. It's actually you give some meaning for each element. So you know that you can wrap anything into the div, and div is just a block. This is it, nothing more. So you can combine you can put a few elements into div to into the common box, let's say, and move it around all together with this div. But we also can use header, navigation, section, article, aside, footer, details, fig caption, figure, main, mark, summary, quite a few. And the whole point of this is SEO. Because if you use semantic tags, search engines, their robots will scan your website and read your website. And if you use semantic tags and you use, for example, you have an article and you write article, the search engine will recognize that and will read this section more precisely and will look for title, will look for content, and will rank your website higher than others because of that. So you will have more chances to appear on the first page because everything that's after the first page is a black hole, right? Nobody goes there. So yeah, it just it is important because, like, again, every single company wants to be on the first page, on the first few, basically first 4 or 5 positions, and that is why you need to use semantic tags. They are not different. If you write, for example, section or article rather than div, there is no difference visually, 0 difference. You have still this like same box with no extra stylings or whatever, but search engines will treat it differently. Yeah.
So would you say that, for example, in the exercise that we have, the number 12, I was using divs all over, but for example, when I looked at Figma, you got like block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4 before the footer. So maybe it will be smarter to use, instead of div, maybe something called like section and then ID block 1.
Yeah. So remember, don't use IDs, but yes, section is the better one. So for example, you have like a navigation, right, for the top one. Then you have a few sections, and then you have a footer down below.
And why not ID?
So IDs is for JavaScript. I mean, you can use for stylings, but with IDs, when you start styling with IDs, you will get to the point that you can't redefine your stylings because it's too specific. It has higher priority than classes or tags, and it's very hard to override them then. So
Okay.
for stylings, classes or tag names. Yeah. So here we have some description for each. So header, navigation, section, article, aside, and footer. We also have a few more, and we have details. So you basically, again, when you create something, you can put details tag, and like search engine will recognize it that these are details to something, and will treat this as a relevant information, not just a random text on the page. We have mark. Mark is basically marking text, so that will change your stylings. You will have, let me actually check that here. I'm wondering because I'm pretty sure that I have mark. Oh my gosh, how slow is that? Semantic Text, where is this? Yeah, lorem ipsum. Oh right, sorry, I right, the navigation. I have more. So we have positioning, index. Now we have semantic text. Right, we have different navigation. Beautiful. Give me a second. So we want to have all 4 there on each page. Yeah, and I have, brilliant. I lost my semantic text here. Positioning, index, here same thing, and semantic text. In semantic text I have main story about context. Beautiful. What is that navigation? Do we have the navigation? Give me a second, sorry. The class is here. Yeah, sorry. Refresh. Beautiful. So semantic text. Yeah. So mark is this one basically. So if I inspect, I just wrapped a piece of my text into mark tag. So it's actually marking the text. So here we have an image and we have image caption. So we have fig caption. So you need to have figure, which is basically the section for the image. Then you have your image inside, and then you have your fig caption. Again, browser will, and not the browser, the search engine will recognize that fig caption is a description to the image, and will treat it as a relevant thing. For details, we have, wait a second, where's my details?
In that same example where you are at, when you say that the fig caption, the browser will know that it's a description for the image. Don't they need to be together, like under the same either div or section or image tag or something? You just put them like separate things
They are.
independent of each other?
So you have the figure wrapper. See?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they are in the one thing.
Okay, so in this case, for example, yeah, you got the figure wrapper, then you got the div, and that image wrapper class, it's applying some CSS style to what? To the image?
Yeah. So it's applying stylings to the div, but I can target my image through that. So I can have like dot image wrapper space image and style image.
Okay.
But image class is for div, image.wrapper, I mean.
Cannot use classes on other elements other than div. So every time you're going to apply a class, it has to be on a div?
No. The classes, IDs, like any attributes can be added to any tag.
So why do you apply the class image wrapper to the div instead of the img element?
Because I want to have a wrapper for my image. So this is like a generic rule. When you create an image, and we will talk about it a bit later, but when you create an image, you always want to have a div as a wrapper. So you will have div and image, nothing else. Because I'll show you why it's important. It will help you to position your image inside.
Apologies if you said that already, Basile, but what is the class? So what are we?
A class is just an attribute to the element that you can select your element, to target the element.
Oh, okay, got it. So it's giving it a name also.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so we have some details. Details is by default is like a drop down here. So you can render some data as well. Aside, normally, in my example it's not, but normally you have this section is showing to search engines that it's not very important. It's some ads or links to another page or whatever. So they will treat information in aside with a very low priority or relevance to this particular article. So if you put something in a site, basically it will kind of skip on your page. Yeah. And the footer. Footer is just footer. Right?
And details one, does it automatically, when you add details, it adds this little arrow that you can click?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just because it's details, it behaves like that. That's correct. Okay. So for we have a few more things. So EM means that you emphasize in text, and the old tag for that is I. And this is a difference, that EM also is not just changing default stylings for your text. It's also saying to the search engines that this text is emphasized. So if you use I, it will change just a UI part of the text. But if you use M, it will change the UI and tell the browser, tell the search engine that this is important, that it's emphasized. Same with Tron. So and B. So B is the old tag, and B is just make text bold. And again, if you use Tron, it will make it bold, plus it will say that this one to the search engines that this is more important. Again, also, it's a common mistake, but people use anchors and style them as buttons. So to navigate between pages, etc. Use buttons when you need a button, and don't create anchors and style them as buttons. Because sometimes you have when you click on the element, you want to trigger some JavaScript, and some people creating anchor and then styling as button. So use buttons. Same for form. I saw it on like I had an interview with one guy, and I was interviewing him, and he created like a code because we asked him to create a code, the form, etc., and he created a form with div. But when you create a form, when you have inputs, always wrap into form. Again, this is extra meaning to the search engines and to the readability, basically, that this is a form. Don't use divs as wrappers for inputs. Label is description for the input. Again, it's more you bring more meaning to each input, and search engines, robots can recognize them. Field set is another way to group a few inputs into category. Let's say you're in a form, you have some personal data, maybe education and hobbies, like 3 sections. Don't use divs for 3, like 3 divs with different classes. Use field set, and that will, again, to search engine, it will explain that this is the one section, and these few inputs are have something in common, let's say. The next thing is tab indexes. So again, if you use buttons, etc., you can use tab to jump between elements. So on my page, see that this one is tabbable, it has tab index. This one is a button, and you can jump between them, right? Let me just click. So you can select without, I'm clicking tab and I'm navigating between them. So this is tab index. And you can basically manipulate with the tabbing. You can set tab index to 1 to some random element on the page. So when somebody will hit tab for the first time, it will jump straight to that element. But it's not very popular, but you need to know that you can navigate and manipulate the tab index for elements. Any questions on this one before we start Flexbox? Because Flexbox is a big one.
So just on tab index, this is, you were showing that people can actually navigate by doing tab on it's not you as a developer that can do tab. Is actually, yeah, okay, got it. No.
Yeah. So you basically set in some order to tab index, like tab indexes, and with tab user can navigate.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So the next very big and very interesting thing is Flexbox. Let me open the Flexbox examples. HTML. What do we have? Part 2. Examples, Flexbox. Open. Okay. 1 second. Yeah. Flexbox. So this is the way how you're supposed to position your elements nowadays. And let me just open it here as well. HTML part 2, Flexbox. Split right. Okay. Container. So Flexbox. Wait a second. With a Flexbox, we categorize our elements for two types. First is flex container. That means that element is like an abstractions. It's nothing different. You don't write any other tags on HTML or whatever. It's just like how you will style your elements and how you will approach, and like basically the naming convention. So we have flex container, and this is the element that contains flex items. And to make your any element flex container, you just set display flex to this element. So if you have some div, for this div you just set display flex and you have flex container. Yeah, so here we have like define flex container. All you need to do is just display flex. So flex container properties, we have flex direction, flex wrap, flex flow. I will show every single in a second. Justify content, align items, align content. And for flex items, we have order, flex growth, flex shrink, flex basis, flex and align self. So let's go to flex container properties. For flex container properties, we have the first one is flex direction. So if you have a few elements, you can, by default, you have row. So flex direction, row. But you can also set row reverse, or you can change the direction to column or column reverse. Let me show you an example. So this container, this element, I've added display flex, right? So now this element is flex container. And by default, we have a flex row, right? So we have 1, 2, 3. I can change flex direction to, let's say, row reverse. And now we're starting from the end, and that will be 3, 2, 1, right? Or I can set to column, and we will go from 1 to 3. Or column reverse, 3 to 1. With one line of CSS, you can position all these elements. Pretty easy. So this is flex direction. And you will use it quite often when you're building your design. Let me actually open the Figma. 1 second. 1 second. This one. Come down. Yeah. So here by default we have, for example, flex row, right? So because you have on one line. But do we have anywhere that we might want to have a flex column? Not really. In our case, nah. Okay, so we don't have flex column here. You probably don't need it. You have some just blocks. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Next thing is flex wrap. So this is the funny part, because sometimes you start, especially for beginners, when you start building your page and start using Flexbox, you want to add multiple elements on the row, and you set widths to each element 200 pixels, right? So for example here I have width 200 pixels, and if I inspect this element, it actually has 136, which is not what I set. And you say like, why? I've defined the width, why it doesn't work? And this is because Flexbox by default tried to fit everything into one row. So if I have my container and there I have, I know, hundreds of elements, it will try to fit everything in one row and shrink in actual elements. To fix it, all you need to do is set flex wrap. And now, if there is no enough space, you just it will create a new row for you. So if I start pasting
And the elements are going to be have the equal size automatically, or
no? So I've set size width.
Okay.
But now it's actually working, right? Because it's not shrinking. If I remove this flex wrap, it will shrink again, and now it's even smaller because I created a few more. And you can do not wrap, but wrap reverse. So now it starts from here, which is crazy. I've never used wrap reverse. So wrap is the default thing, which is you will use quite often, because you making some section flex, let's say display flex, and then because you might have more items, you will set like flex wrap, because you might create more cards and you want to have multiple lines, or here. So yeah, you will use it. This is very popular property. Flex flow. Flex flow is basically the combination of flex direction and flex wrap just in one thing. So you can just like a shortcut. So let me just show it to you. So basically you can write column wrap, right? Or row wrap. So just as you can combine in one line. Nothing specific. This one is probably the most popular, and this is why people like Flexbox. So look at this. You have a container, right? And you want to position your elements, let's say, to the right side. You don't want to write margin for the first element and push it, I don't know, you don't want to do like margin right, I don't know, 200, 300 pixels. It's not very left. And it's not very responsive, right? So you start resizing, it stay on the same position, so it's just bad. What you can do for the container, you're saying, hey, can you flex end? Justify content, flex end, and that will put in the end of the row. And it is responsive. Or you might say, no, I don't want to have it in the end, I want to have it in the center. Beautiful. Or you might say, okay, center is too simple, I want to have space between. So I'm spreading space equally between them across the row. Or maybe you want to have space around and have some extra spacing on these sides. Or maybe you want to space evenly. So now each gap is the same, and that will use all the spare space to spread it equally. So with one line of CSS, you can actually style your elements, the whole container. This is very useful for your navigation, for example, right? You just define into the whole navigation, you're setting a display flex and justify content flex end, and you're done. You have it.
Can you please show the class justify in your CSS?
Yeah, sure. Justify. Here.
Okay, so you got everything commented, and basically that's what you are doing in the browser. So enabling at the same thing what you have commented.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but the command is just flex, star flex, and space between. Those are coming from the flex.
Yeah, exactly. So you're basically just selecting which one you want.
Awesome, thank you.
You don't need to create a specific class for that, because you can basically if you have, because I've created generic classes like flex container and justify, but you actually can have just some, I don't know, main section. And this main section here in CSS, you will have like main section, and you will have something like display flex, justify justify content, flex end, right? And this is it. You don't need these two classes now. Yeah. But I'm just, because of the examples, I'm doing that.
Thank you.
Like this. Yeah. So this is alignment horizontally. And you might think, okay, great, but what about vertical alignment? And we have it. We have align items. So again, you have your container with display flex, and by default it is stretch, so align item stretch, but you can set to flex start, and you can see that it shrinks based on the content, or flex end, or center, or baseline. So see that it is on the beginning, but aligned based on the tallest element, right? So flex start will do this, but baseline will keep it on the beginning, but will align based on the tallest element. We also have align content. So align content, same here. So stretch by default, flex start, flex end, flex center, and this kind of like our justify content. So you can have space between and space around, right? Same thing as justify content, but vertical. Yep. The next step is flex items. So this means that you style in specific element. And the first property is order. So if you start defining order to the element, to any element. So I don't have any orders. So, and basically all these properties that we just discussed were applicable to the container, right? That contains all your elements. But now we are talking about flex items, so about each element separately inside the flex container. So here, let's say I have 5 elements. So I think that, yeah, I have this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I set the order to, let's say 2, it doesn't matter, or 1, it will not change anything. It will put all elements without order to the very beginning and start creating order from the end. So basically, because this is the only element that has order, so let me put it to 2 because I want to have, and that starts from the beginning, from the end. But if I take my element, let's say 3, and add order 1, so see that 3 elements without order goes to the very beginning, and then start doing order 1, order 2. So you can shift elements in a row, depends on the order, if you need. Right? But you might think that, okay, here we have like a very similar section, so image, text, text, image. But here you can think that, okay, I can use order and have this similar HTML. So you have a few approaches basically. You can create different HTML, so image, then text, and then in the another row you have text and image. Or you can have identical containers, like image, text, but for the second one, you can have like justify content and, flex direction, row reverse, and you can change the order, right? Because you will reverse the positioning. Or you can add some order, like order 1 for this one, and that will put it here. So you can manipulate with CSS very easily. Okay, so flex grow. Flex grow is actually, because sometimes you have, let's say you have your 5 elements and you want to fulfill this area. and you say that, hey, I want to make this the last one to take the spare space. And it's very easy to do. So if you go to last one, set flex grow, sorry, wrong one, it's applied to everyone. Flex grow to the last one, it takes the full spare space, all spare space, sorry, right? So you can easily fulfill the spare space. Or you can set for all your elements flex grow 1, and that will equally grow every single element. So I'm selecting all of them here, box by box class, right here. Or for the last one, I can set flex grow 5, so it will that's supposed to be 5 times as this one, 5 times big as this one. And you can play with these numbers around, like flex grow 2, it's slightly bigger, it's twice as big as 1 roughly, and that basically you can play with these numbers. Very, very easy. But again, you probably don't want to play with all these numbers, but this is very typical case when you want to fulfill the spare space, and you just do it for the first element, or you can do that for the last element. So here, let's say, sorry, why it's, oh yeah, right. Maybe you want to set for the first element flex grow 1, right? Or maybe for the middle element flex grow 1, and that will take the rest of the space. Shrink works in the opposite direction, so it's basically shrinking, and you have just you shrinking the element. So if you have shrink 2, it will basically divide by 2 as a regular one, and you have, so by default it's like that, but with shrink it's twice as small. You have some extra numbers here for these two. Yeah, flex basis, you will not use it, it's rare thing. It's also about shrinking and expanding. So here, so I have an example. So you're basically setting the base and multiplying this base. Yeah, flex base is 200, and then I think it's based on this one. I don't use it at all, so I might be wrong at some point. But flex base. Oh no. So now flex grow, I know, yeah. So now the flex grow, if I do flex grow 2. Not really. Yeah, I don't, to be honest, remember. I've never seen it in a production, and I never use it. Let me actually quickly Google. Flex grow. Flex basis, sorry, basis. We should have some nice oh, maybe we have it here. Flex basis. Define the default size on the element before the remaining space is distributed. Okay, right. So you can define, actually, remember that, yeah, right, remembered. So we have, if you remove flex basis, right, and set to our 5th element to take the remaining space, so we have the width, let's say we have a width here, 200 pixels, right? Oh, right, wrong one. But for this one, we want to have flex grow 1. And we can add a few more elements, right? And it's shrinking my element, this one. But if I don't want to shrink this element, no, Yeah, so you just set flex shrink. Okay, so we're shrinking it, just flex shrink 0. What's going on? Sorry. Yeah, and it will not allow to shrink this element. It can shrink any other, but not this one. So still, what is basis? Why does it behave like that? It's distributed. Size of an element before the remaining space. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm not sure because I definitely never seen it in real life. I might send you a link to some good explanation.
No, don't worry. If you haven't seen it in real life, no probability of us seeing it in real life, so don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have flex, which is combination of few. So you have flex, you can combine basically first property is flex grow, then flex shrink, and flex basis. So this is like combination of 3 previous elements. And align self. Align self, as we have align items, right? We also have align self. So you can basically align each element separately. So you can put like flex end for this one, and that will put this element to the end vertically. And we have the same justify self. So you can put each separately, and the center, and maybe if you want to have this one, align. Let me actually justify self, flex end. My container doesn't work. Is it because? Wait a second. That should work. Flex end. Center. Give me a second. That's odd. So if I do my, so the container takes full weights. Great. Justify self flex end. That's odd. Is it? Flex, justify self. Oh right. So it sits on the same yeah, so it's based on the content. I see. Yeah, it's based on the content. So justify self is just shrinking within the space based on the content. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so align items, but align self is aligning actually within the container. So it's different a bit. Yeah. Okay, so this is Flexbox, and as usual, to practice Flexbox, because it's all about practice, we have a good game for that. So here you need to write your CSS, the Flexbox actually, to position your elements. So to move your frog to the leaf, you need to justify content flex end, right? Woohoo! And we have 24 levels for that to practice. Here, so I done first 2, it's cached, yeah, so center. The third one, you need to justify content and like probably space between, no, missing, space around. Woohoo! Yep. So 24 levels. Enjoy these games, because I think this is the best way to learn targeting and like some particular things. And we have, I think, the great CSS grid zombie, I think. Okay. Let me check that. Oh, garden. They have a garden. Yeah. You'll play that. I'll give you this game later. But we're not talking about CSS grid now, so ignore this one. Yeah. So try to play this game. That's definitely helpful for you to practice CSS grid. It's Flexbox, sorry. And I think this is it for today. Any questions? No? Okay, so you have your exercise, two exercises. You have your landing page and the simple page. And if you have any questions on some, like how to position elements, why it's not on the right place, I already wanna shoot myself, etc. This is normal behavior and normal feelings, I would say. So let me know, and I will be happy to help you in Slack and on calls.
Thank you.
Cool.